Any health-related information on the following show provides general information only. Content presented on any show by any host or guest should not be substituted for a doctor's advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any new diet, exercise, or treatment program.
Welcome to Accelerated Health with Sara Banta. I'm a busy wife, mom of 3, and an NANP certified supplement professional, but that's not all. I'm also the founder of the multi-award-winning Accelerated Health Products, a brand offering innovative natural supplements to optimize your health. This podcast is not just a source of information, it's a community for you and those looking to grow and learn in your health journey. And this is a springboard to the learning of the free group coaching that I do on Telegram, where we continue and you ask your questions. I post tips and tools to keep you moving forward. So here's what you can expect. New episodes every Monday and Wednesday with in-depth health discussions and expert guests, and then a hot topic issue every Friday. And then, of course, the health group coaching to keep learning. Have you thought about detox? Well, I've created over 10 unique easy detox cleanse programs to help you reset your body while feeling great. You feel great day one. Take my detox quiz. The link is on the website to find the right one for you. And you don't know which supplements to start with. It's a kind of scary, right? Well, complete my health goals form for your free supplement protocol on the website. And it is a personalized protocol just for you. So today we are talking with Robert Slovak. This is actually an old podcast that was so insightful, I had to bring it back. He is a master talking about the health of our cells and the importance of electrolytes, but in the right balance. So many electrolyte formulas out there are man-made, where the manufacturer decides how much potassium versus sodium to put in the supplement. And he explains that we come from the ocean, we come from the sea, and sea water is literally the exact formulation or composition as our blood plasma, and that is why it is so valuable. And he has created the supplement called Quinton, or Quintessential 0.9, which you can find at Accelerated Health Products. Something that I take every day, especially if you're working out, especially if you're doing a sauna or sweating, but it really gives you that energy and supports that cellular health, because we are only as healthy as ourselves. So enjoy. Now to the good stuff. Robert Slovak is a degreed aeronautical and astronautical engineer, best known for co-founding Water Factory Systems in the early 1970s. He and his brother were among the early developers of reverse osmosis technology. After officially retiring from the U.S. water industry in 1996, he went on to globally share his decades of knowledge and experience. Reverse osmosis is just the small tip of what this brilliant man has done in his lifetime. I am just blown away. God has given me the introduction to Robert. And Robert, welcome. The first moment I talked to you, I knew it was going to be the first of many, and you are on my right hand as one of the top go-to gurus in health. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Sarah.
I'm beyond excited to dive into this huge topic, and we could go on for hours. And so I want to first give the audience, obviously I didn't even give your introduction much there, because I want you to talk through what your history is and what you've uncovered over the last, 25 years since 1996?
So I did and continued after selling my company. My brother and I sold the company. We went on to teach water science and technology worldwide. We covered almost everything from the Middle East to Europe to South America, Asia, etc., etc. And while I was spending time in Brazil, I had an experience and an epiphany which changed my career. I was doing work for the Brazilian government and actually rewriting their standards for their water infrastructure, because, as you know, Brazil is very natural resource rich, but to process and use natural resources and even to sell them, you have to have water technology because it's kind of the basis of all things. And they didn't have that, and I helped them put that together. But while I was in an unusual research experience out in a remote area, I myself became deathly ill, and I understood what it was, and the conditions were such that that was easy to happen. And I had bacterial gastroenteritis and was seeking a helicopter to go to a Rio de Janeiro hospital, which didn't get much of a response. And then someone actually gave me, I guess you can see this, gave me this exact little package. Can you see that, Sarah?
Yep, I can.
Okay, so someone handed me this in a remote area, and I'm like, I'm looking at it, and it's like, it has an extraordinary look to it. What's it doing out here, and why are you suggesting I do something with this? And he said, this young man who was our carpenter said, This is our doctor, and we use it for almost everything." And I'm going, "You're serious?" And I go, "What is it?" He said, "It's made from the sea, and it's called Canton." And I said, "Okay, I know I wasn't going to be getting a helicopter." He said, "Just take one every hour and just let's see what happens." So what else was I going to do? I would have probably consumed anything. And at the end of that time, to my utter surprise, shock, and awe, I was free of all symptoms. And I said, I actually ran down to at like almost midnight to where I knew all the men in this small village would be, and that's called the bar. And I just held this empty package up and said, "Can you get me more of this tomorrow?" And the rest is really the rest of my life till this point. So I became so involved with this science, only to learn that this science, which was a discovery of Rene Canton in 1897, long predated me, and I was discovering nothing new. And in fact, I was coming from a world that didn't know this health science, and so I stayed in Brazil to learn it for 2 years and became an expert in it and brought this product in 2004 to America, where it had last been brought to America in 1908 for the children's hospitals of the United States to treat childhood tuberculosis. And I was just even more in awe. And so I learned it, brought it to the United States, and then continued to be involved with it until this day. I have taught Quinton worldwide, almost every country. And this small uh, boutique pharmaceutical company which was in Paris for the first 96 years. Now it resides in a very elegant, state of the art facility in Alicante, Spain. I don't know if you've ever been to Alicante, Spain, Sarah, but it's kind of like a Spanish version of Monaco, and very, very sophisticated and very beautiful and on the Mediterranean. So that brings me up to this date, and then I expanded my own involvement in health science. I was primarily a water scientist, turned now a health scientist and water scientist.
Yes, and we're going to get into all the water as well. It's funny because I live in California. I've got the Pacific Ocean. I've swallowed that Pacific Ocean many of times. And when I'm taking the supplement, it's like, oh, this is like what I swallow when I don't mean to swallow. But obviously, it tastes a lot better and more pure. And I know there's a big difference between just going out and drinking the ocean
Yes.
water versus, and we'll get into that. But I know you had some slides you wanted to go through and show
Yeah.
us.
So I'm just kind of here, kind of a vague description of a topic. We're going to delve into a little bit of evolution because I'd like people to understand why they do what they do, why they take products that they're taking, and a lot of it is just rooted in the evolution of the entire five kingdoms of life, which humans are just one of the subsets, the animal kingdom. And then now we're all thinking about how to maintain that life now that we understand a little more about it. And beyond that is, how do we extend the normal bounds of lifespan? And that is my newest pursuit. And this information is so foundational. It's really in a separate category. This isn't like taking NAD or AMPK or some kind of exotic systemic enzyme, etc. And they're all good, but this is foundational. There is no more foundational than the elements of the periodic table. And I like to help people understand this from the scientific perspective so they really grasp it. This is something you have to grasp. And it's been sad because perhaps we lack science education, especially in America. And even doctors have, I would say 75% of doctors have no clue of the relationship between the periodic table, minerals and trace elements, and our general health and well-being.
I
So
agree, and I'd love to hear more. It's when you go out into the supplement market in general, and I want you to touch on this. There's so many supplements out there that say there's a combination of minerals and amino acids and electrolytes that the formulator decides to put in, and they're not
yes.
in that natural balance of what the body really needs, and then the body doesn't know what to do, let alone where is it coming from. So that's why I'm so intrigued by this.
So one of the slides I love showing is my favorite water scientist, a serious brainiac of the world, Martin Chaplin from the UK, who made this statement that water is not a bit player in the theater of life. It's the headline act. And every day we learn more and more that in fact it's beyond the headline act. Water has so many dimensions, such ability to remember things, such an ability uh, to provide uh, so many functions in our body. It's really incomprehensible. If you ask me, oh, Robert, how much do we know about water in physiology and biology? I'd say maybe we're breaking the 10% mark, and we have a long way to go now that quantum science is beginning to enter into the equation of how water interacts with our biology. So I'd like to tell your people, and again, I'm this is very straightforward science, and not everybody agrees with straightforward science. There are different religious angles. So, but this is really the most conventional kind of whatever you want to call it, National Geographic level of science. So we think of creation of all matter and energy as somehow beginning about 13.8 billion years ago from nothing, not nothing, but perhaps some consciousness. And that event, which we call the Big Bang, produced mostly hydrogen and helium. And how strange, probably there's just a few people in your audience who even know that the first things that were created were hydrogen and helium. And where do they fit in? Well, they're the first two of the lightest elements, so that kind of makes some sense. And I want to point out on this slide that there's obviously different levels or different types of helium. And then if you look at the third item down on the far right, you see something you may have never seen before that I believe Sara and I are going to take up in a future podcast, and that's called heavy deuterium. So just keep that in the back of your mind. And the end game of this, to this day, 74% of the universe, the mass of the universe, the stuff in the universe, and it's 74% is composed of hydrogen and 24% is composed of helium. That's the whole universe. That's what it's consisting of. And then there's only 2% left. And those 2% are the other 90 natural elements that we really, we don't have any daily interaction. We don't see hydrogen. There's a little bit in the atmosphere. We don't see hydrogen and helium. We see all the other stuff. We see what the earth is made out of. We see what living matter is made out of, et cetera, et cetera. And the hydrogen and helium, of course, the hydrogen makes up part of water, H2O. So we know it's kind of locked and plays a role there. But it's those other 90 natural elements which, together with hydrogen and helium, comprise what we call the periodic table. So the Earth formed about 5 billion years ago from all the space rock, space junk, not junk, but space rock, space dust, etc. And it formed around the gravitational attraction of the sun. And here we get to what, and I just freely say, this is what God made everything in the universe out of. Just these 92 little tiny things that you can't see with any microscope. And they each have an identity. And if you look on the far upper left, you see hydrogen. And if you look on the far upper right, you see helium. Those two comprise 98% of the entire universe of matter. Now, it doesn't include photons and light and other cosmic energies. That's not here. But this is the real stuff. This is the stuff we feel. Did you ever fully grasp this before, Sarah?
Never, never, never. I feel like I'm back in high school in chemistry class.
Really? So these things make up everything. There's nothing in your body that is not made of these things. And there's really only about maybe 75 of these things of the 90 that are used to make up our body. Everybody, every plant, every animal, every bacteria, every fungus. That's it. It's very important. So those elements on this chart, that's what makes up the Earth and the atmosphere. And about 4.5 billion years ago, the Earth, which was pretty free of water, and you needed water, I think we all know that. So water came to the Earth from hundreds of millions of years of bombardment by comets carrying ice to Earth. Okay? I mean, it's incredible. This event is called the Late Heavy Bombardment. And it just bombarded the Earth, the dry, hot, cooling Earth, with comets of ice, and that ice just melted and it left the planet covered with water.
Oh.
Like, yikes. So that's
Yeah.
4.2 billion years ago, covered with water. Not a speck of land that even a turtle could float to, even though there was no life on the planet. But what happened? And this is the greatest event perhaps in all of biology. And that is when the periodic table of the elements dissolved in the water that was brought by the comets.
Mhm.
And that we call that body of water that was left by that millions of years of that chemical process is called the primordial ocean. The ocean that was about to host the creation of life. Perhaps one of the greatest mysteries there is. And that process was helped by heat and energy and gases, which are part of the periodic table, released from the cooling earth underneath. There was tremendous volcanic upheaval. And so this is really what was about to be the recipe being concocted for life. One, a solution of the periodic table of the elements in water in very specific proportions. Because when you dissolve something in water, its characteristics determine exactly how much can dissolve. And that's all, God arranged all this, okay? All this was figured out in precise detail. So that was one thing. And that's what, when I ask a room full of doctors, what's the ocean? They just, they come up with all kinds of answers, but I would say in 16 years, no one has given me the right answer. And I tell them the right answer, ladies and gentlemen, is that the ocean is the only aqueous solution of the entire periodic table in the known universe. That's it. A very special place. So unique. And it included organic molecules. It included dissolved gases such as hydrogen, methane, and ammonia. And then there were things that aren't on the periodic table: electrical forces, magnetic forces, photonic energies, light, cosmic rays, etc. And the result was the first cellular life agreed to be about 3.8 billion years ago. It's a great number to know, because most people, they ask, how long has man been on the earth? When did life start? People have long since forgotten this, and if it was ever taught even in school. But pretty much the first cellular life is agreed to have begun 3.8 billion years ago as simple microbial life called prokaryotes. And here's what happened afterwards. We finally show up in a slide. Okay, you can see on the far right there's something that looks like a silhouette of somebody walking, but on the far left hand side is really where Earth began as an assemblage, a gravitational assemblage of space rock and space dust. And as it congealed under gravity, of course, it became hotter and hotter, and it had to get rid of that heat by radiating into space. And then where you see the beginning of that blue rectangle, that's when the Earth was bombarded by the comets carrying ice. And shortly thereafter, you can see the line that says cellular life begins. And so that's what evolution is. Evolution occurred within that blue rectangle. The most important, well, I mean, the main part of evolution, until, of course, life is still evolving, but that blue rectangle is important, because that blue rectangle says all life evolved in the ocean for that period of time, about 2.5 billion years before it left the ocean. Nothing left the ocean. No plants, no bacteria, no animals, nothing. And finally, when it did leave the ocean, something very critical happened. Life came and went because the ocean, which it became familiar with, was like returning home. The ocean gave it its sustenance, its design, it gave it everything. And so not all life was, it's like maybe having one of your teenagers leave the home and kind of come back after a while, okay? Because it's not doing so well compared to the comforts you provided him. And that's kind of how the ocean is. So when life left the ocean, plant left first, about 400 million years ago. And then animal life and microbial life left a little bit later. And that's it. We're at the end. Humans just occupy that little light brown line at the very end of all of this.
Wow. Robert, we're going to take a short commercial break.
Okay.
But I'm just in awe, and it also brings forth, I'm super excited for you to get into, our blood plasma matching what's in it.
It's coming.
It's so exciting. So anyways, we're going to take a short commercial break and come right back with Robert Slovak. Welcome back to Accelerated Health Radio and TV. I'm your host, Sara Banta, the owner of Accelerated Health Products. And today we have Robert Slovak talking all things water and getting a history lesson that I don't think anyone thought they were going to get today. It's super exciting. So thanks, Robert. And let's continue and see where this takes us.
Well, before I go, I want to tell you that you have one of the neatest selections of music and songs that I've ever heard on a podcast. So it's like, if I mean, I'm like a dancing kind of person, even despite my old age. And I just thought, will they see me dancing if I just get up and listen? But it's great. Whoever did it, kudos.
Thank you.
So anyway, this is a big guy who had a lot to do with it, a lot of criticism about Darwin. He missed a lot of things. He got a lot of things right. And he added to the whole equation of us understanding it. But understand there's 5 kingdoms of life that have the bacteria, algae, animals, fungus, plants, all of these kingdoms of life. And there's thousands of species within these kingdoms. All of these evolved in the ocean. It's good to know. Here's the takeaway. I make doctors read this with me in a class. Nothing influenced the origin, design, structure, and function of multicellular life throughout evolution more than the sea. Seawater is the medium and architect of all life on Earth. Bingo. It's some great wisdom of understanding biology, and doctors don't get it. In fact, Rene Quinton, we haven't mentioned him yet, but he was a revolutionary biologist, actually a student of Darwin, friends with all the super guys in the late 1800s. He knew Pasteur, he knew Antoine Béchamp, he knew Claude Bernard, and the whole set of guys knew Rene Quinton. But he specialized in the effect of the ocean on biology and life. And he finally made the statement after all the studies he did. This is one of my favorite statements, and you won't understand fully what it means yet, but in the next subsequent slides you will. The only way cellular life could leave the ocean, because it was so attached to it, it was so designed by it, was to take the ocean with it. Wow, what a cool statement. And we're going to find out, what does that mean? Well, 60 to 70% of us, which is the water that makes us up, about 45 liters of stuff that's watery, it's not just pure water, blood plasma, interstitial fluid, lymph fluid, all of it came from the sea. It's so close to the sea composition, it just didn't kind of get near the sea or kind of look like the sea composition, but you're about to see it's virtually identical. So we're going to kind of skip this one. This just is a doctor slide. It's a little too much for our group right now. This tells you all of the compartments of fluid in the body, and just suffice that there's a bunch of compartments in which fluids have a unique identity. But you can see that 2 things to understand this, because the average person doesn't know. You've heard of the word extracellular fluid. That's the fluid outside of the cells, that they float in the extracellular fluid. You could consider that the ocean, if you will, of the body, the internal ocean. And then you have the intracellular fluid, okay? That's inside the cells, and you can see that the extracellular fluid is about 15 liters in a 70-kilogram person, and the intracellular inside the cell is about 25 liters. This was a new discovery for me when I started studying biology and physiology. So here's the guy who really did. He figured things out that were so advanced at the time, and he was one of those gurus, savant, man of all seasons. Not only science, biology, physiology, clinician, intuitive, but he was also a famous humanitarian. He was an aviator as well. He and his family funded, believe it or not, even though they were French, they funded both the Wright brothers and Santa
Oh,
Dumont. And I think Santa Dumont was doing work in France and then what did it in Brazil. But he was a big guy in aviation and a French war hero to boot. I'm no match for him. And Renee, you did an incredible job. Oh, so there's books written on Rene Canton in multiple languages. It's quite famous. Are publishing. We are publishing one in English, maybe early next year. And so we call this this product that he taught the world about, essential marine plasma. And it's something that comes from the world's oceans in a very special way. And Rene Canton, the Laboratoires Canton, there's the Canton Foundation. It's a world foundation that is involved with health research, oceanography, etc. And this is his first product. So his product looked pretty much identical to how it looks today in 1897. I mean, believe it or not, I never realized when that gentleman gave me those 6 ampules of what is called isotonic, that it was available as early as 1897. But what did he do with that? He made plasma de Canton. So what did he do? Well, you know what he did the first thing? Now, this is going to be so shocking to some of you, but in 1904, well, from 1897 to 1904, he prepared what he was about to demonstrate to the world's elite doctors. And what he did was he first started by administering isotonic seawater. He just diluted it to the same not composition. He diluted it to the same concentration as mammalian blood. And he was able to transfuse the blood plasma of dogs with the seawater. In other words, he would remove their blood plasma and substitute it with seawater.
Wow.
And then he goes, I think I'm onto something. I think my supposition is right, that we did, in fact, take the sea with us as our internal fluid. But then in 1904, before the medical elite in Paris, he did something that truly shocked the world. He didn't transfuse the blood plasma. He transfused, Sarah, pay attention. He
I know.
transfused, I'm just kind of joking. He transfused the whole blood with seawater. The whole blood. He did it to 6 dogs. It's written up in minute by minute. Whoop, I'm going to go one step further. And here is the treatise that he wrote in 1904, demonstrated before the medical elite of Europe. And that Canton, plasma de Canton, was functionally identical. And I really should change this, not only to the blood plasma, it is functionally identical, but it suffices to actually replace the whole blood. And to this day, I cannot give you the details. It is very secret information. But there are, I think you know that there are people, religions around the world that forbid or do not believe in taking the whole blood from someone. Okay? Because they believe the whole blood contains much more information that can disrupt somebody or even harm them. And it's very true that that's possible. So what do those religions of the world use? They use this product, marine plasma. So that instead of getting an IV of whole blood, they get an IV of the same product that we're showing you today. And why does it work? Because these 3 charts show you, they might be a little technical, but they just show you the primary electrolytes in three kinds of biological fluids. One is blood plasma, one is extracellular fluid, and one is the original Quinton isotonic. And you can see that basically they're all the same.
Amazing. And I mean, Robert, this is amazing, but we've got just a few minutes left. So I want to
Okay.
make sure that we go through. So the ketone isotonic, and then there's the hypertonic. So
Yes.
am I
So I'm
correct?
holding up three of each. Is that clearly seen by
Yeah.
you?
Yes.
So the three in this, what is just the color of the glass, not the color of the fluid, that these three clear glass products are the isotonic, which are diluted seawater to match the concentration of your blood plasma. And the other three in the amber glass are the pure extracted, or they, as they say, harvested seawater. And all these products are pharmaceutically produced. They are sterile. They are apyrogenic. They are used in more ways than I'm permitted to tell you on this podcast. And this product has been around now. It's on its 125th year. And for most, this book you see, Le Dispenseur Marin, okay, that book were the core of all the studies, because soon after Rene Canton showed what it did and could do with the dogs in 1904, the world's the world was in a multiple pandemic. Europe, Africa, and the Middle East, such as Cairo. You had cholera, tuberculosis, syphilis, gastroenteritis, massive birth defects. Women had 8 to 10 babies before they had a normal one. And this is the product that came to the rescue for the next 50 years.
Amazing. So now you've got someone here sitting in front of you that says, if something's good, more is better. So when you're taking these two supplements, can you go through when you should take each one of them? And you can all find both of these supplements at acceleratedhealthproducts.com. I carry both the hypertonic and the isotonic. And I've been playing around with when to take them. I work out, I use a far infrared sauna. When do you want to use one?
Okay, obviously we have a complex product. And so I'm just going to hold up something that I'm not permitted to show you ever again. This is a guidebook written in 3 languages. The book itself has 3 different copies, 3 languages. It's not permitted to be in the United States. I'm just showing you for informational purposes. This guidebook tells you everything about the application of this product, but we are not permitted to share this with the public in the United States. I think you can figure that one out for yourself, okay? But this does tell you all of the details. In fact, there's 144, I believe, in this book, 144, let's call them pathologies and symptoms in which this is used. So it's very, very a rigorous science. You don't use it casually, but it also cannot harm you either. So here's the general rule. The isotonic, which is in the clear ampules, we tend to call just generally the medicine, okay? Because it's used for when you are not well. And the hypertonic, which is in the amber, is used when you are well and want to maintain it, and also when you're well enough to participate in a highly active life. So if you're about to play tennis, you're about to go on a trip, on a bicycle trip, you're about to go work out in the gym, you almost always take the hypertonic in the amber glass. when something happens, you get the chills, you get a cough, something. And we could go on, I'm trying to stay away from the obvious right now. You go right to you go right to you go right to the isotonic. Now, the book you see in the slide here, the Dictionnaire Vidal. Do you see that, Sarah?
I don't see, no, it's not on. There we go.
Okay,
Yep.
so the Dictionnaire Vidal this is a copy from 1975. It was in this book from the 1934 to 1999. The Dictionnaire Vidal is the physician's desk reference. This is what every doctor in the United States uses as his guide for how to fix people. And this is the European one. And this product, which is Canton Marine Plaza, has been in this book for 75 straight years, only to be removed at the wishes of Laboratoires Canton, who makes it, because they did not want to be associated with a pharmaceutical drug any longer. So they are now, they are not considered a pharmaceutical, they are considered a dietary supplement.
Okay, so we only have like 3 minutes left. So I want to make sure. So if you're an active, healthy person, I mean, I consider myself active and healthy. Is there not a time for me to be taking the isotonic? Should I
Yes,
just?
there is a time.
Okay.
And that time is a very specialized application in which you want to relax and shift from sympathetic to parasympathetic. It has a magical ability to shift the body. You may have to take 1 or 2, but it's nearly guaranteed and proven by heart rate variability studies. When you take this typically shocks doctors. You will go within 10 minutes. If you are in a state of fight or flight sympathetic, you will gradually shift into parasympathetic. So some people will take this 30 minutes before they go to bed if they don't easily fall asleep and relax. So that's
Okay.
one example.
And then the hypertonic, you can mix with water. Is that correct? Or take it straight?
Yes, you can mix either one with water. It's kind of a waste to mix the isotonic with water, but you can mix the hypertonic as a way to add minerals and trace elements to the water itself. You're not helping the ketone, but the ketone is helping the water achieve a different capability of, let's just call it structuring for now, which maybe in the future we can talk about that
Yeah.
subject.
Awesome. Well, we are definitely coming back and diving more into this, but also into hydrogen water, because we've just scratched the surface of Robert's expertise right now. I hope this is whetting your appetite for future podcasts that we will have. Robert, why don't you tell people where they can find you? And like I mentioned before, you can also find these products at acceleratedhealthproducts.com.
Find me? Well, it's not easy to find me, but I mean, for your group, I'm just going to just wing it and invite people to contact info@waterandwellness.com and to submit a question if you like.
I love it.
Somebody will handle that. I will do my best. I get many requests for that information. But if you just try to identify how you heard me and say, hey, I'm on Sara Banta's Accelerated Health podcast, I will do my best to answer anything. And of course, some of these answers are relatively complex because this product is simply the most foundational nutrient that you can take, bar none, the end of story.
I love it, because as I mentioned in the beginning, everyone goes and they've got their chronic disease and they treat the symptoms. The doctors treat the symptoms. They don't go down to the foundational part of health. And as you mentioned, this is the true foundation. I've got other supplements and things that will help piece things together, but this is truly the foundational supplement, because this is you. So Thank you, Robert, for joining us
Oh,
today.
can
Oh,
I say one more thing?
okay, quickly. Yep.
Okay. For any of you who know someone who's preparing to procreate, have a baby in the middle of pregnancy, breastfeeding, etc., there is nothing I can ever share with you of the significance of this in
Mm,
having disease-free, extraordinary children at every
mm.
stage of your pregnancy. Thanks.
Wow. I wish I had known that with my 3 kids, but they're catching up now as teenagers. So I'm making sure they're taking it every day. So thank you, Robert, and thanks
You're
everybody
welcome,
for
Sarah. It was
joining
great.
us. We're going to do it again. And if you have any issues, you can contact me directly through the website, acceleratedhealthproducts.com. You can find this episode and all of my episodes on YouTube, iHeart, and over 100 channels. So just search it. We're there. If you are interested in these supplements or any at acceleratedhealthproducts.com, you can use coupon W4HC20 for 20% off site wide. Thanks again for joining us and have a great week, everybody.